Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's ubnradio.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Larry Yates' show. We're delighted that we have such a wonderful audience around the world who has listened and watched us for the last 4 years. And we are so happy to celebrate today just because today is a new day in your life. This is the Larry Yates' show, and this isn't Larry. I know you expected him, but he's actually en route and going to be speaking with us also. This is Reverend Carolyn Wilkins, known as Rev C, who will be standing in for him. And we have some wonderful guests today. We have representatives from an organization called Aid Still Required. And we'll tell you more about the organization and the people in a few minutes. But I'd like you to say welcome to Andrea Payne and Hunter Payne, who are the founders of this amazing organization that is touching lives all over the world. So I can't help it. I have to talk about politics. But I also want to congratulate those listeners who might be in Chicago and around the country who are excited and overwhelmed and tired because they've been celebrating the World Series and the win of the Cubs. So congratulations to the Cubs, 108 years. Now, this is a wonderful story because it helps us all, whether scientist or sports person or dancer or entertainer, that says good things may take their time. So they have waited, they have maintained composure, they kept at it. And I love the story, really, that it's been 108 years, and I saw someone on TV yesterday who said his mother is 101. And he is so excited because she actually gets to see Chicago have a celebration. So it's never too late to win. So I give congratulations to that. And now I'm going to turn the attention to the political situation that we have. I'm going to start more so with our local initiatives and some of the things that are going to affect California. We have so many things to vote for. So again, I encourage you, like I did last week, just get out to vote. This is a privilege, it's an honor, it's an opportunity, and I say it's a demand for you to speak who you are. We have senators to vote for, their Congress positions, in addition to the president, and we have over 50 bills that need to be passed. So several initiatives that are high on the list. I know you've heard about Prop 61, 62, 63, 64. And in fact, we've had people on the station who have talked about some of those initiatives. And I won't encourage you on voting any way except vote your conscience, vote what makes a difference for the broader sense versus you individually. Although I know you are important, we live in community, so make sure we're making decisions that are for the best interests of your community. But get out to vote. That's the main thing I can say. And we now have a caller on the line. Let's see who it is. Hello, caller. Is there someone on the line? Hello? I guess that's not who we thought it was. So we'll continue. And I'm going to take these headphones off for the moment. But now we're going to have a little more commentary on the presidential election. And Hunter and Andre, if you want to say something, you're welcome to. If you want to be neutral because of your organization, you're welcome to just say you have that conversation. But because I know that there are givers on both sides, I know I have friends on both sides. I know I have people that I wonder about on both sides. And this has been one of the most interesting elections. I thought 2008 was the top of the crown of elections. And actually, as I became a voting age, I was enamored with the vote for Kennedy. Let me stop for a moment. Hi, caller. Welcome. Who do we have on the line?
This is Larry. I think maybe I should call back.
No, you're fine.
I am.
You're fine, and we are so happy that you're on the line.
Oh, okay. I'm a little bit mixed up here. You know, I'm under the weather a little bit, and I just want to thank you, Carolyn. Thank you so much for filling in and running and taking care of the show. The numbers are good, and I just want to thank you guys so much. And this is a serious election year, and I want to thank Andrea and Hunter for being on the show today. And is everybody ready for this exciting event coming up on when is it?
It's
Tuesday next week, right?
Yes, we have 4 days and counting.
And I was talking to a little kid on my travels, and the kids, believe it or not, Christmas came up, and I heard the kid ask, "Well, what would you like for Santa Claus to bring you?" And I jumped in and said, "Get this election over. Just get it over with." But I just thank everybody for coming. This is, and from my point of view, I love the work that you guys are doing. But from my point of view, each year we say, "Well, this is a serious election. This is a serious election." For me, I don't make any bones about it. I don't hold back. I am totally for Hillary on this election. It's not that I love everything Hillary does. It's not that I love everything in the history of the Clintons. But I do realize that at least I put myself, I could not survive 30 years of millions and millions, if not billions of dollars has been used against me as a smear campaign. I think one of the saddest things in this election is that we know that the Republican Party has been doing a smear campaign against the Clintons for at least 30 years. And they have found nothing but, maybe, and then Bill Clinton had his affair. But to use this with the emails and stuff, and the way it has been done from the FBI to interfere with the process of the American election system is very scary, number one. And the mere fact that someone like a Donald Trump can benefit from this is even more scary.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts, and I am holding a prayer and meditation vigil on Sunday for all of those who are in fear, upset, confusion, doubt, concern, anger, mistrust, and those who just don't give a damn. to come and to get centered around this election. Because if you are doubtful and fearful, then you're not voting with the power that you need to vote with. Because you need your whole consciousness there. You need your whole self to jump in. You can't just tiptoe into this election. If you don't want to be bothered, then there are too many people who have died on the trail of voting. Family members that I know who have been killed, and it doesn't make sense. I can't walk with my chest out and my head up and know that I have missed an election of this magnitude. So from 2 to 3 o'clock at Agape, come one, come all, everyone is welcome. We're going to honor everybody who's running. And it may sound strange, but the only way to get through this is to know that in the end, it's going to be okay. Regardless of who's elected, however, we want to participate in a way that we have the most power supporting us in that magnificent house called the White House. So, Larry, do you have any other thoughts before you go?
I do, because I think for myself, I just tell people to vote. I don't tell people who to vote for. It's not my job to tell someone who to vote for. I openly tell people that I am for Hillary. But I think one of the most important things for anybody from LBG community, from the African American community to women,
Hispanics,
is the Supreme Court. For me, it is the Supreme Court. And regardless of who you are and what you're doing, if you don't like Hillary, if you don't like Trump, think about who would these people put on the Supreme Court and how that Supreme Court would affect your beliefs, your rights, and what you see this country and the direction that you see this country going in. Paul Ryan is the most powerful man in the local and state. I mean, in the government.
Federal.
The president is. I mean, federal. Right. Thank you. The president is the most powerful international, globally, military, keeping us safe. But he can put bills in front of the House and the Congress. But what we have to be so careful with is for LBD. The women, minorities, where do we stand with this Supreme Court? Because if we're not careful, there's no question about it. If the wrong people get in and put the wrong Supreme Court justices in there, it is going to affect our long-term freedoms and rights in this country, and we have to be very careful with that.
Yes. Thank you so much for your input. We know you'll be better and well and back in the studio next week.
Yeah, and I'm enjoying Hunter and Andrea. I'm enjoying watching the show, and you guys have a good show. And thank you for joining us on the Larry and Cecilia show. Karen, once again, thank you so much for holding down the fort, and you guys have a wonderful show.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for inviting us and feel better.
Wonderful.
All right, bye-bye.
So Larry brought up an interesting point that I think will take us as a segue into the discussion of what we're going to have on aid still required. And I didn't turn my own phone off, as I tell everybody else to do. He talked about thinking about ahead of what the Supreme Court might affect. And I have studied and been a part of indigenous spirituality, and recently did a program on Native American spirituality and customs. And I looked at some of the core beliefs of the indigenous people. And what is spoken about, the 13 Indigenous Grandmothers, is a film that if you haven't seen, please look at it. It's a beautiful film of wisdom of 13 grandmothers from around the world. And one of the things that is taught is 7 generations. Mm-hmm. It's a core belief of the Native American peoples in this country. And the 7 generations are 7 generations going back and 7 forward. That decisions made that you make today and that the council makes are made not for what is happening today, but for how it will affect their children, their children's children, their children's children's children, and 7 generations forward. And they know that their life today was impacted by decisions made 7 generations prior. So I encourage you to think about whether you have children or not. You know people who have children, and the children of the world are your children. And I'd like to use that to go into a conversation about as aid still required, mm-hmm. because I know that the work that you do is in line with knowing that decisions for the moment are not what makes the difference. So, Andrea, would you please tell us a little bit about the organization and yourself and what inspired you to begin?
Thank you, Rev C. Well, 11 years ago, Hunter and I weren't doing this work. Mm-hmm. We had met each other, and we knew we enjoyed helping people or donating and making contributions,
writing checks,
yes. Or if volunteering at a local school, yes. or something. Mm-hmm. But I think we'd had a conversation about just thinking about the world and what kind of difference or things. And the 2004 tsunami happened in Southeast Asia.
Yes.
And that was one of the biggest cataclysms really of our time, or at least of the last 10 years, right? There was something different about it. Mm-hmm. And there were so many people from different countries around the world that were affected.
Yes.
And it was brought home to us a little more personally because I had friends who were there at the time. Mm-hmm. And I had visited them at their home in Thailand. And so I could really visualize what mm-hmm. was happening. And it was really possible they were on the beach with their children when it happened. And we didn't hear from them for 4 days.
If those of you who don't remember, I believe over 100,000 people were killed in that.
Actually, it was 260,000.
Okay, I know it was a very high number. And
I think you're thinking 160 in Aceh alone. Right?
Yes, and it was so profound because people were just sitting right mm-hmm. there on the beach.
Right.
And the only small thing that happened was the animals started scattering.
Yes.
But besides that, they had no warning.
Yes, it was really from almost one moment to the next. And so that affected us so deeply. And our friends, it turned out, were okay. When the 5 minutes of internet worked, mm-hmm. they contacted everyone on their list.
Yes.
But we were so moved by what was happening on the ground and how everyone there was deeply engaged mm-hmm. from all the different countries, helping each other, translating at their hotel. They'd commandeered vans mm-hmm. to buy supplies. So Hunter and I looked at each other like most people and mm-hmm. said, what could we possibly do to help?
Yes.
And we had an idea for a project mm-hmm. to raise funds. We thought, we'll raise $10,000 and we'll ask our friends to identify an organization and we'll send it. Mm-hmm. But the idea that we had for a project, which was Hunter's a musician among many of his talents.
Now, see, Larry would have wanted to meet you and still will. And you'll tell us in a few minutes what your musician is involved in. Yes.
So the idea
mm-hmm.
we had, we'll
mm-hmm.
put together a CD of independent musicians, mm-hmm. raise $10,000, and we'll be done with it, a few months. It'll take 3 months or something.
Yes.
But then Hunter had a brainstorm. He thought, maybe if we asked some big name musicians, we could raise more money. Mm-hmm. And so he started picking up the phone, and through some serendipitous relationship. You never know who you know, who you know, who you knows. And we realized people are so willing to be generous. And within a few months, he had a track from Concord Records, which is one of the big music labels, and Ray Charles and Nora Jones. He had enlisted Eric Clapton's and Paul McCartney and these huge names.
So Payne, Hunter. How did you, I keep reversing that in my head.
That's okay.
Hunter, how did you get Eric Clapton and some of those other names involved?
Well, I play basketball with some guys.
Oh, that makes a difference.
It always does.
No, I'm serious. I was
It all comes down to
in
basketball.
corporate America, basketball and golf. So
you know the
yes.
you know the answers. So
Yes.
we're done. Right? No, one of the guys I played basketball with was ambassador to Finland under Clinton. We were just talking about the Clintons. And Bill Clinton, as you might recall, plays saxophone.
Yes.
In fact, he's quite a ham about it. And he's played with my brother a few times. My brother's a sax player. And so I thought, well, what if we got Bill Clinton on this record that we make $100,000 we could send over 10 times as much. So my friend contacted Clinton, and he said no to the idea, which shocked me. But then he came back with a letter from his UN office. So suddenly we had the endorsement of President Clinton and the United Nations.
Yes.
So with that, that's when I got the courage to go out.
Oh, beautiful.
But but the first track Andrea was talking about from Concord Records, which is a major jazz label, was Ray Charles and Nora Jones singing what is
Here
it?
We Go
Here We
Again.
Go Again.
Yes.
And that had just been a #1 song the year before, and that's what I asked for, and I thought, they'll never give it to me. But another guy I played basketball with was very close to that group, and so I got a call from the head of Concord Records saying, what track do you want?
Wow.
Instead of I'm begging for.
Yes.
And
Well,
he
one of
gave
the
us that
things
track.
that I just want to insert as to your point before about the Cubs and being persistent.
Yes.
Was we had certain miracles that happened because we asked and we
Yes.
put ourselves in that position. But then there were other things that Hunter wrote hundreds of emails and phone calls, and one of the things we'll get to why we're called aid still required. We thought this CD was going to come out in 3 months.
Well, I'm laughing harder because Larry and I own an entertainment company, Keynote Entertainment, and we have been behind the scenes for a lot of major situations. So we do marketing, promotion, and distribution of music when there was distribution of CDs and other things and records. And so I understand that sense of it can happen.
Right.
And in 3 months, it's like, it's totally not going to happen in that time, just from a production standpoint.
Well,
and studio time.
The idea was that when it was going to be with independent musicians, it could have been done in 3 weeks because just email people, they send me tracks and we put it out.
Yes,
but when we got involved with major artists, then we had 150 different permissions to ask for.
Yes.
All gratis or on the bottom of everybody's pile. And we're asking for first time gratis. What the Beatles had never given up a track before. They gave us Let It Be.
Beautiful.
So but it took us years. So Andrea was alluding to why we're called Aids to Required is because we were then meeting with Bill Clinton's office at the UN a couple of years into doing this project. We don't have it out yet.
Yes.
And we're bemoaning to them, well, you know what? There's been Katrina and the earthquake in Pakistan, the earthquake in Chile, and everyone's forgotten about it.
Well, we felt completely embarrassed, too, have we failed. It's not out yet.
And we said, should we bother? No one's thinking about it anymore. It's like so old news. And they said, no. That's the exact reason you do put it out.
Yes.
And someone had given us the name Aids Required for the record, just we were going to put out the record. And then we decided that's actually a great mission.
Absolutely.
Right, what we found,
wonderful story,
as we went, when we were, questioning whether putting out the CD and we went to Indonesia and Sri Lanka and Thailand, and we still saw, and this was a year and a half into it, 18 months, and we still saw hundreds and thousands of
that's
people.
No time.
Oh, not at all. And then, of course,
no
in New
time.
Orleans, we were there 3 years later, and still devastation. And so that we started to get clear that everyone's there in the beginning, and the
Yes.
media and the cameras 24/7, and you save lives, and that's, of course, with the food and water and medicine, and that's essential. But then the cameras go away, and people, feel like, wow, I did my part, and they did donate generously, but then you move on. But meanwhile, that person has no job, no house, no land.
No house, and not even sure where they're going.
Exactly.
Katrina was an excellent example, because not only were people, were their houses devastated, but they were bussed around the country to different states. So they had to even get back to
Right.
to the city of where they grew up and lived and had their
Right,
family.
all the relationships that you
relationships,
have, the
yes.
social fabric
Yes.
gets completely
because you have
split
to
up.
leave the spot that is in crisis.
Well,
And that's a
I
major
think
part
that
of
that's
it.
actually the problem with that was that they went to Houston and other places,
Yes.
and then they were given road home money, they called it. But when you go to your family in Houston or something like that, you are the new rich person who just came in, and you start spreading your money out. And by the time it's time to go back after you can recover in your area back in New Orleans, you're out of money. So
Well,
coming back to your own property,
yeah.
you can't afford.
But there's also no way the property wasn't ready
Yes.
to I understand that perspective of what one does with money when they're not, when they have it and they're not and can't invest in the place that they're ready to invest in because the place isn't ready. Because we've been back and forth, Larry and I have been back and forth to New Orleans for many years afterwards, and up to 8-9 years after Katrina, there was still devastation. There was still arguments among developers about whose property is it, who's entitled to it, and which ones are we going to put back and which ones are we going to tear down. And they were still doing stories, I'd say 2 and 3 years ago, about remodels or tear down. So it's taken a long time, and people, I wouldn't be prepared for that. I could be prepared personally for being someplace else for maybe a month. But then I'd expect to come back to where I lived and start over again in some way. And so New Orleans is one small look, but let's look at Haiti, because I know that's a place that you have participated in. How did you get to Haiti? How did you get started in Sri Lanka, and then what did you do that took you to Haiti also?
Hunter, do you want to?
In Haiti? Well, one of the things that we do is raise awareness. And so with the CD compilation that we just talked about that was endorsed by the UN, that was an effort to raise awareness as well as raise money. We got involved very soon after that with Darfur back in 2007. Now, this is before Darfur became a household word. And our part of the Darfur outreach was to enlist NBA players. So we had PSAs, we produced PSAs by Kobe Bryant and Steve Nash and NBA players to go on the air, and they were spread out like that. And it turned out that caught fire with sports writers because, as Andrea always says, they're a little tired of writing about the last jump shot. Here's something else they can write about. And it's the first time NBA players are reaching out beyond their community. You know, they usually are talking about the Boys and Girls Club in their area or something like that. So you hear Kobe talking about Darfur as a very forceful public service announcement.
I remember seeing that.
And then that led us into, for Katrina, we started doing outreach for Katrina too. So that's how we initially got into outreach for Haiti. I'm sorry, I meant to say, because Haiti happened later.
Oh, right, because what happened, we started developing the relationships and doing, we were asked to, we had gotten involved with working with the ball players, realizing that people wouldn't necessarily pay attention to what Hunter and I had to say. But maybe somebody with a following of 20 million people or 50 million or something. And then we realized, wow, this is really a way to get attention around that. And then a film was coming out, Darfur Now, by Participant Media with Don Cheadle and George Clooney. And they heard about the work that we were doing. And so they called and said, could you enlist some of the basketball players with the public service announcements?
To publicize the movie.
Right. The cause.
The cause,
they didn't
yes.
ask us for the movie. It was the cause.
Yes.
And so when... so Hunter had gotten, we had gotten 12 or 11 players or something, and then after again persistence, Hunter got the call that Kobe had said yes, and so we were very excited and called participant, and it turned out that they had actually just finished their campaign. But Hunter and I felt that this was so important for Kobe to speak out that we couldn't let that opportunity go by. So we would carry the PSA campaign forward. And that's also when, at that point, we weren't AIDS still required at that point. We were, but we decided at that moment, we realized, wow, this has become our life. We're doing this 24/7. We loved the CD had been named AIDS Still Required, and so we thought we would launch with this public service announcement and campaign.
So how many years past the inception of the CD did you actually put it out? Look at the furrowed brows here. It's
five years.
Real. I love it though, but you did.
Yes,
we did.
But you did. So
and we're still sending money.
I just left 8th graders. I teach peer mediation with different programs or different schools, and I just finished having a conversation because some of them were a little antsy, some listened, some, 8th graders, I remember being in 8th grade. I liked school, but there was something between 7th, 8th, and 9th grade that I just couldn't sit as well. And so I know now with iPads and iPhones and all sorts of other things, I can't imagine what teachers do to keep people's attention. I can't sit anymore longer than 15, 20 minutes before I have to do something. And I even admit that I check my text messages in church and other things. So it's like, something beeps and, I got to look. So I was talking to them about what I asked them, what do they want to be known for? Not so much being famous, but if you were talking to somebody about going to a high school, if you wanted them to bring you into a high school or a special program, what would you write to them about of what you do in the world, how you treat other people or what you do? Do you do special things? Do you treat your sister and brother well? Do you, what is it you do? Because I was trying to get their attention off of what you have, what you purchase, what you, do you want to be famous because you play basketball? That wasn't what I was asking. I was asking, who are you? And what do you want the world to see? And what I see of the two of you is commitment. You both seem to be strategists, which I love. That's part of what I do in the world, is create vision and strategy, and then I'm open to magic.
You create your magic.
Beautiful.
Well,
I mean, you create
the space.
Space for it, right?
The space for it.
Exactly.
And I do believe in magic. I do. I believe in miracles. I believe in magic. I believe in unexpected things happening. And because I believe it, they do. And I see that in the two of you, that you left yourself open to something beyond your knowing and power to to find its way into your space because you created a bigger cause, a cause greater than yourself.
Oh, thank
And
you.
one of the places we just had some of that magic.
Yes.
So we were talking about Haiti briefly, and one of our programs in Haiti is a school. So we built the school there, obviously for a school for kids who were not going to school. But it also serves as a community center, as a church, as a refuge in the storm. And Hurricane Matthew came through there, obviously, and it was a shelter for many families. But the miracle that happened was we thought what's probably going to happen around the school, because it's in a rural area, is that a village will appear. And so what's happened since we started building the school is that 4 houses right next door have popped up. And these are real houses built by another nonprofit.
Yes.
Now that nonprofit has stepped up in the last few weeks after Hurricane Matthew to bring food. So the children at the school now have a hot meal every day in addition to what we give them in the morning. That's a boon for a community like that. That makes, or people make $1 a day. And now, and this same group has come in and said, and we should brand them. They are, Food for the Poor is the name of the group. They're setting up an agricultural program with 300 of the farmers, and they've brought in a tractor to do that work. They're donating. Well, we just had a blowout here of a lamp. And they just donated, or they haven't totally confirmed, but they believe that they're donating 22 cows and 2 bulls to the same community. So this community, when you have children who were not going to school, starting to graduate from school, when you have the agricultural and the livestock element in, and with the fact that we are teaching them in school not just what they'll learn in any school, but we're opening a computer lab this month. We just started English lessons today. If you graduate like we are envisioned the way they graduate, this community in a generation will be unrecognizable.
Yes, I'm so excited. In fact, that was what I held myself back from telling the young people, because I've been to rural areas, I've been in dirt roads in Africa and in the Caribbean, in South America, and the children come to you asking. They have their hands out. And some people who travel are like, well, I get tired of these kids asking for things. But you know what they were asking for? My first trip, I went to Senegal, and they were asking for paper and pencils so they could go to school. And I get teary-eyed just thinking about it, because while I was there, I realized that even though our school system may not be the best, and they may be better in certain neighborhoods than there are in others, what we have is 1,000 times better than so many other children have. And we provide desks and places to eat and food in school and books and everything else. And in so many other countries, children have to pay. Their parents have to pay for them to go to school. They have to buy uniforms for them to go to school. There's so much required. Aid still required. Support still required just to get an education. So I am such an ambassador of education that it seems like it's free and it's not valuable. But go to a country where it's not available, and then you'll see how valuable it is.
And in Haiti, the general literacy rate is 50%.
Yes.
And, it's all, but there are areas where it's 80%, and that's mostly the places where we work.
Yes.
And just a quick aside, I know it's not the focus, but we found out on the reservations in the United States, there's actually some of the same levels of illiteracy and the same levels of life expectancy, which was shocking to us in our own country. So,
the life expectancy of Native Americans is, and we're going to have more conversation about that, because Standing Rock is an important, it's a historical moment for this country.
Yes.
There's so much attention to the politics that there's not much attention to what's going on in Standing Rock. We see little blips and blurbs. However, it demands more attention. The thing I will say as an aside is that over 300 tribes have come together the first time in 100 years in Standing Rock to stand together against the exploitation of their land and property in order to dig these things for oil. So we're going to have more about that in the upcoming program. And I've actually had the chance to meet with some of the hereditary chiefs from that area who are willing to share their story and what's going on there. But I want to get back to the two of you and Haiti and other places. Tell us where you are. You talked about the schools in Haiti. And are you in more than one location in Haiti?
Yes. So maybe what I'll do, one of the questions you'd asked before that I didn't quite get to was just how we sort of came to Haiti.
Yes.
So quickly, as we realized our mission was that, other people would be the first responders. They would come and clear the rubble and do the immediate life-saving work. And then we would come a year or two later and we would be paying attention and we would be looking at what work was being done. And then we would see where we could, we're a much smaller organization, but where we could find relationships, what work resonated with us, what communities we found were sort of being left behind. So when Haiti happened, we knew immediately that we would be going there. Whereas, the Japan tsunami happened a couple of months later, but we felt that just given Japan's status in the world, that would not be the best place for our resources. So we thought we would start in Haiti around reforestation because we saw the link between poverty and social justice issues and environmental degradation. So that's really where we were focused. But in the interim, as we were looking for that good partner, one of our friends ended up in an area called Wharf Jeremy and part of the City Soleil slum, which is considered the worst slum in the Western Hemisphere. And she told us that there were 100 rapes a day.
Amazing. 100 rapes a day?
Yes, in the settlement areas, in the tent camps. And so Hunter and I were so astounded. We were like, what can we do about that? We're not social workers. We're not policy people. We're not therapists. And Hunter had an idea with his background in meditation, and we both meditated, and we'd heard of a group called the Art of Living, which practiced a kind of technique which they had used in Kosovo and Iraq and Afghanistan, which used yogic breathing and techniques, but in a very physical way. And it was a way to, they'd used it with people with PTSD and also with women who'd been raped as a weapon of war.
Yes.
And so Hunter said, well, why couldn't maybe this could work in this community. We wouldn't be coming in and lecturing about gender violence, but it would be a way to address it without having to even talk about it.
Yes.
And
it's a beautiful tool.
So
I'm very familiar with the
art. You are, right. So, so the miracle in this was, so we asked our friend, we didn't want to be a bunch of foreigners coming in with some crackpot idea that the community wasn't going to like. And she said, oh my gosh, I think they would love it. And then we called Art Living and said, would you be willing to send people? And the miracle was they had been working with young people for a few years in leadership training, and 19 of the young people had just learned how to teach this technique. So within 3 months, we were on the ground in the slum teaching the technique. We thought we'd be lucky if our goal was 80 people. We thought we'd be lucky if 40 came. 143 signed up. 118 completed. And that was our first program on the ground, which has now expanded to 4 different cities or villages or areas in Haiti. And I'll let Hunter talk about the different things we're doing in each place.
I'm just tickled because this is a connection that I didn't even know. I have sat with Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, and I was in New Delhi in March for their 35th anniversary.
For the 2 million people there.
The 3.5 million.
It was 3.5 million?
3.8 actually.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my! We'll have to
So
send you.
we
our
don't we
pictures.
don't know we didn't know our connection. So we're
No.
the three of us are grinning here. So Hunter, would you share a little bit more about what has come next?
Well, before I do, I just want to say one anecdote about what we were doing. So Andrea said we're bringing, yogic breathing and meditation to a shanty town.
I know where you're
going.
Right?
Yes.
And so our driver, who is this wonderful man,
Logistics manager, every
yeah,
Renaissance.
he's a translator. He's the man in Haiti. He knows absolutely everybody. He can get you through any situation. He's remarkable. And as we're pulling in to give our introduction, because we've gone around with bullhorns and told the women, special women's program. We're not saying it's about rape or anything, but just come at Sunday at 3. Be there at Sunday at 3. So as we're driving there to go back at Sunday at 3, our driver turns to us, translator, and he says, these women are putting together a handful of food every day for their family, and that's a huge struggle for them. And they wash their clothes, and you've seen how filthy it is there. What makes you think they're going to want to do yoga?
Yes.
And we all of a sudden a little pit in our stomachs. So we turn the corner, we
We said that's why it's a pilot.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah, right. That's why it's a pilot, we said. And we see, waiting there at 5 minutes of 3, are 2 women.
Yes.
Only 2 women. And we realize, we think for a moment, we've blown it. Donor money, we've planned this whole thing. It's crazy. But then Andrea goes, wait a minute. These people don't have watches or iPhones.
Yes.
And I realize it's a manana culture here. 3 p.m. is sometime before dark.
Yes.
Right? So we went out with the bullhorns again and brought the
Maintenant, madame, maintenant, le programme commence.
That's
Yes.
right. So it was a great success, and they
Yes.
clamored for more and like that. So what also happened then is that we had these trainers. How many trainers did we have in the first
Well,
group?
the first course, there were 4 professors. There were 6 involved, but Haitian culture is very community-oriented. So every day, more of their compatriots showed up. So by the end, we actually had about 11 young
beautiful.
people who were
11 of the
leading.
trainers.
Yes.
Every time we couldn't plan. One day, we had 15 people in one little car.
So they're from different parts of Haiti. And after we dispersed that first and we came back here, we started hearing that they had something else that they were working on in their part, and they had something else they're working on in their part of Haiti. And we started getting interested in partnering with them. So what we have done is we do things really the wrong way if you're a business. So we're stretched out the entire length of
Yes.
Haiti. So when we go to Haiti, we go the whole gamut of the whole country to our different programs. And no program is like another program. They're all different.
Well, I'm going to ask you, we only have 2 minutes left.
Oh, no.
So I would like for you, yes, it's gone by so quickly. And I'd like you to share in some final thoughts how many lives you've touched, what you need, and how people can get in touch with you. Because I know I can tell them the website, but if you'll start, Hunter, and then Andrea, if you'll share some things.
I don't think it's possible to really calculate the lives that are touched, because you touch somebody and they go back and touch other people with it. So we know in the most direct sense, 500 people are in our programs right now. So we know that. And then we have their families.
Yes.
But where the school is, that's community projects. So we just said 300 families were included in the agricultural program. So that's
Multiply times.
thousands of more
yes.
people. So how do you calculate that? But we know that we've touched them very deeply, and that when people are left behind, see, we seek out communities that were left behind after the natural disaster. After the first responders have left, these people were not taken care of. They're not business centers. They're not tourist centers, so they do not get the kind of attention. They are the slums.
Yes.
And so they are just left behind afterwards. So we go in and look for those communities who are really eager. And that's what we evaluate when we're talking with them. And then we're trying to figure out how we can custom make something that will really work for them.
Yes.
So it may not be that we're hitting 100,000 people yet, which is the goal, but we are having this fantastic learning curve and connections are happening for us where we know most everybody you need to know now in Haiti. And you can contact us.
Yes.
Our website is called aidstillrequired.org. We deeply appreciate donations, and we use them very wisely. One of our board members said to us recently, and she's been around this industry for decades, and she said nobody uses money more efficiently than Aid Still Required.
Wonderful. I've seen on your website that it's 90% plus. Andrea, what would you like to say in a final thought?
Oh, goodness. All right. So we have in Haiti 4 programs now. The Children's Center in northern Haiti, 200 children, 67 adults. They're clamoring for literacy training. We've done an orphan rescue and family reintegration program, which we feel actually there are many children in Haiti that aren't actually orphans. It's just their parents gave them up. So we're working to address that in a pilot program to systematically change that. We have adult literacy program and vocational program in Kai, and Hunter's spoken about the school. We were there when Hurricane Matthew hit.
And a final thought on what the best thing that has happened as a result of you doing this.
Hunter? You have the words at
5
the tip
words.
of your tongue?
Do you have 5 words for us?
I think it's the school, because we're initiating not only what we're doing with the school, which was not being done, but that we're inspiring other groups to come in and contribute to that in a large way. So I think
community builds community.
I would say community builds community is beautiful, but also for me, this idea, many people feel frustrated or they feel like their dollars don't make a difference or they've gotten discouraged. They read about corruption and things like that. And I guess I would say I've seen firsthand the good that can be done. And so I would say, have faith and good is happening and good is unfolding.
Yes.
And we're seeing it, we're living it firsthand.
Thank you so much. I wanted to just honor you again, Hunter and Andrea, for having a dream, for not knowing quite what to do, how to go ahead, but saying you're committed to doing it anyway, dedicating your lives to something greater than you. And it doesn't matter whether the numbers numerically have a significance to other people. What I know is you're making a difference. So please recognize and go to their website, aidstillrequired.org. And as Larry ends the show, I'm so delighted that they're here. There's more to come. They're in Haiti. They're looking at doing something in Standing Rock. There are other locations that they've assisted. And we know that the money is being used wisely and from their heart. So as Larry signs off every week, a nation can rise no higher than it elevates its women. And I have made it a Rev C quote that says, a nation can rise no higher than it elevates its youth. Peace out. Thank you all for listening. Plan to vote.
Clicked and fell.